So I thought I would do something on this channel that I haven't done too often, and that is review a comic instead of a manga. I know, a little weird, but bear with me here. So I did have a period of time where I was trying to get really hardcore into comic books. Actually, well, when I was a kid, I read comics a lot. I had a bunch of my dad's old comics that I used to read, and then I would collect them here and there when I got a chance. But I remember around 2015-ish time when I moved to Colorado and I didn't really have a lot of friends and I didn't have a lot going on. There was a comic book shop that was right down the street from my apartment. And so I started to kind of get into comics, and I started over with the New 52 of DC. And I know that's kind of like the era that a lot of people don't like, but that was I always consider the New 52 like my DC, because that is the kind of era that I came into where I was actually trying to keep track of everything, and I was trying to I was reading Justice League, I was reading Scott Snyder Batman, Tom King Batman, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed it for a while, but I fell out of it because comics are just too goddamn hard to keep up with, because there are so many ongoing storylines and crossovers, and then the event comics happen, and then you have to read issues, you know, in other comic lines that you're not even interested in to understand the context of things that are happening here. And then there's multiverses and timeline changes, and I was just like, you know, it's just too much. It's just like, that's why I like manga, so you can just pick up at volume 1 and you can just read straight through to the end, and it's all one story, okay? But there are some comics that I really enjoyed, especially during that time, and I read a little bit outside of the New 52 as well. One of them was, I guess, the catalyst to create the New 52, which was the Flashpoint, or Flashpoint Paradox, which I think is how some people know it, and also the name of the animated film that was based off of it. So Flashpoint was one of the ones that I read before, but it's been a very long time since I had read it, and I figured with the new Flash movie coming up, and all drama aside, outside of the film itself, the fact that the film is coming out next week, and I am going to go see it, so I thought I would refresh my memory with the Flashpoint storyline of the comics and just kind of give you guys my overall gist and my overall review of it. So I reread Flashpoint, and here are my thoughts. The number one thing about Flashpoint is that it's a time travel story that tells you the dangers of changing things, and how one seemingly insignificant change can create a domino effect that changes many things. It's called the butterfly effect, where if you stepped on a butterfly, you know, it could drastically alter the future in various ways, because every little thing that happens leads to other things happening. And if just one thing doesn't go correctly, you could wind up changing the entire future. All of the history that you know could possibly be changed. With Flashpoint, it goes even further than that, and they showcase basically all these kind of little ripples through time that happen, that periodically change little things as time kind of goes backwards and forward. So it's not just changing one thing. It's if you change one thing, there's ripple effects that change everything. And some of the biggest things that happen are with what happened to the other DC characters. So Barry Allen, the Flash, went back in time to save his mom's life, because she is murdered by his arch nemesis, the Reverse Flash, which is a guy from the future that hates Flash. He's just a dick. He's just an asshole. I don't even really know why he's an asshole. He's just an asshole, right? And so I'm not going to pretend that I know a shit ton of comic lore. I'm only going by what I know. But all I really know about Reverse Flash is that he's just a dick, all right? He's just a dick. So he killed Barry's mom, put Barry's father in jail. He was framed for the murder, and that's sort of I'm sure if you watch the Flash show and the Flash movie, it's all going to cover this. It's a basic origin story of the Flash. So he went back in time to save his mom, but in the beginning of the Flashpoint comic, he doesn't remember that he did that. So he kind of changed time, and he kind of wakes up, and he talks about the Flash. Nobody knows about the Flash. He doesn't have powers anymore, and he's like, what the hell is going on? Runs into his mom, you know, starts crying in her arms like, I can't believe you're here. And she's like, what are you talking about? And so basically he's changed everything. He's changed everything, is completely different than how it was before, and some of the biggest changes deal with the other DC characters. So he's created a world now where the Atlanteans are at war with the Themyscirians, or the Amazons. So basically Wonder Woman versus Aquaman, but it's a worldwide, a world war between these two areas of just massive superpowers, just creating this ultimate destruction. There's lore that Wonder Woman killed Mera, and that Aquaman and Wonder Woman have a romantic history here, and it's just everything's all messed up. Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, does not exist, because the alien that would have died to give him the ring did not die in this timeline, so he's not around. The Shazam family all combine into just Shazam, but he's called Captain Thunder. So instead of like the Shazam family, there's just one, but it's like the five instead of just one kid turning into Shazam, it's like five kids that combine and turn it. That sounds weird. I don't know. I'm just gonna skip that one. Cyborg is relatively the same, and he's kind of the only guy that's pushing for actually doing good things and kind of like trying to save the world here. He's one of the only people trying to make that happen. The biggest changes, though, that impact the story are with Batman and Superman. So, first, Superman, he doesn't land in Kansas because of like the ripple effects of the time change. He lands in a city, which causes devastation, and then he's captured by the government and experimented on. And so he's like locked deep underground, depowered. You know, they got him away from the sun. So nobody knows who Superman is, and he's just like this scrawny, like depowered, like wimpy, like thing in a cage somewhere. So that's like super messed up. And then the best one is, of course, Batman, and this is the Flashpoint Batman, and I love this character because in this timeline, in that moment where Batman's parents died, it was actually Bruce that got shot. Bruce Wayne died, and his father becomes Batman in this universe. Also, his mother goes crazy and turns into that version of the Joker, but that's like a whole other thing. Actually, if there is an entire comic line of just Flashpoint Batman, I want to read it because this guy is a motherfucking badass. I love this Batman. Listen, I know like the Batman no kill rule, and I understand how important it is, but there's just something that's kind of cool about seeing the Thomas Wayne Batman just chuck somebody off of a building and just not give a fuck. I know it's not very heroic, but he's not a very heroic character. He's a guy that's very broken and damaged and beaten, and he just gives no shits about the world. He's fine with the world falling into chaos, but you know, he's still trying to like fight crime and do his thing, but he is a very different character than the Bruce Wayne Batman. He's a lot more angry, a lot more brutal with the way that he does things. Even when he doesn't understand information, he's totally willing to just like snap somebody's fingers. Like he just does not care at all. But there's something about that I kind of like. But also, it's not just like the badass nature of it or whatever. It's also that he is so like broken from having his child, you know, killed in front of him, which in many ways, you know, they're both like horrible. I would imagine, you know, obviously it would be horrible to be a child and see your, you know, parents gunned down, but imagine being a parent and then I guess I'm closer to the age of being a parent. I'm not a parent, but I guess because I'm a bit older, I kind of, I'm just relating to that a little bit more. I couldn't imagine like how horrible that would be. So I definitely understand the way that he turned out. But the cool thing about his character is that he, you know, when he hears about Bruce, when Barry Allen shows up, because he's looking for Batman, he's like, look, everything's changed, everything's different, and he goes to find him. When he mentions Bruce, I love this change that you sort of see in his character, where it's like he's willing to do anything to save his son. If there's a chance to change time, change history, bring his son back, make it so he died instead of his son, he's willing to do it by any means necessary. Even listening to this guy talk crazy about time travel and say, listen, I need you to get me all these chemicals, and then I'm going to hit myself with a lightning bolt, and then it's going to give me super speed. And Batman's just sitting there like, I mean, if it saves Bruce, all right. You know what I mean? Like, he's just willing to do this crazy shit in order to bring his son back, and he doesn't care about what happens to him. And I think that's the thing that I find really compelling about it, is because he's perfectly okay and fine with dying. He's not worrying about his own mortality. You know, he's just saying that whatever means necessary to bring my son back, I'll do it. We'll change all of time. I'll die. I don't care. Whatever sacrifice I have to make. So it's a really cool dynamic to have with that character, and I really like it. For Barry, of course, in the story, it kind of deals with that. It kind of deals with like the loss of somebody, and I don't think that it delves into it enough. It's probably something that the Flash movie is going to do, but you know, dealing with the loss of somebody, dealing with the death of somebody close to you, a parent or a child or somebody that's that close, it is a really, really difficult thing to go through. Everybody grieves in a different way, and I think that many people would say that they would be willing to do anything to bring them back. But also just sort of that pain, that realization that if you did that, it could change everything else. Like everything else could be worse, you know? So it's a paradox. It's a time paradox, right? It's like, what do you do? What's the right decision? And also, you know, things happen that are out of our control many, many times. And I think one thing that's interesting about like the superhero genre, certain stories that are written, you know, by really good writers, I think the Flashpoint is pretty good. Um, is that it's interesting when you see that they have all of these godlike abilities, like the Flash can do, you know, it can go somewhere in an instant, and you know has the potential to change time, but they're still powerless to things that happen to them in life, like the death of somebody else. At least it should be. It should be that way, and it's kind of written that way in this story. There are some, I mean, everybody, this is another like downfall of comic books, I think, is that like nothing sticks sometimes. Like characters can always come back to life in some way, shape, or form. But I think that what this story begins to imply is that you feel so powerless when that happens. And then if there was any way to fix it, like regardless of what happens to the world, you know, that's how you feel in that moment. Doesn't mean that it would be the right thing to do, but that's how you feel in that moment. Is like, I would do anything to bring them back. I would do anything to have another conversation with them. You know, if I had the power, I would do it. And so I resonate with that, and I understand that, and I think that that's what makes this a really good story too. Yeah, I don't want to spoil the entire thing, I guess, if you've never read it, but basically when Flash gets his powers back in this new altered reality after getting hit by minor spoiler. So first time it happens, it doesn't work, and he just gets like charred to the bone. And then like Batman's like, "You're fucking crazy." And he's like, "No, it's all right. I need to get hit with lightning a second time." It's just like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Shit like that's great. So then it's like Flash, Batman, Cyborg, and they, they're attempting to rescue Superman, even though, you know, he's been locked away, and they're trying to decide, what to do with this war that is happening between the Atlanteans and the Amazonians. And he wrestles with his decisions of what to do, of trying to change the past again, or should I just fight for this world? You know, there's this giant war happening, everyone's dying. What's the right thing to do? And Batman is just so obsessed with bringing Bruce back by any means necessary, and it's just it's a good dynamic to have. And it showcases a lot of other characters too, and I'm sure there's a lot of side stories with Flashpoint that I haven't read, because there's stuff going on with like Deathstroke, there's stuff going on with Lois Lane and Steve Trevor and like all these other characters that kind of come in and out. So this is like the main story that's focused just on the Flash himself, like Barry Allen, like figuring this out. But there's a lot of other side stories about all that stuff. So, but overall, the Flashpoint story that I've read, I really enjoyed it. I do like the animated adaptation of it too. I think they do a really good job with that. It's also pretty dark, pretty violent. I think the animated version is more violent than the comic. So that's out there for you guys to experience too. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's a really good storyline. And it has a lot of compelling elements to it and a lot of questions that it would ask. It puts superpowered characters in a disadvantaged position. Obviously, there are some things like sometimes you have to get rid of like the most powerful characters that would solve everything. So that's kind of why they wrote Superman the way they did. But I also think it works in the context of the story with the changes in the timeline and everything kind of happening like that. So I really enjoyed it, and I give it my recommendation if you want to read some superhero comics. Instead of a manga every once in a while. Change it up a little bit. Now, I am excited for the Flash movie that is coming out next week. I will definitely review that as well. Unfortunately, even if they are going to follow this storyline a little bit, I know that they're not going to do the Thomas Wayne storyline, because you have Michael Keaton as Batman, and we know it's the Michael Keaton from the Tim Burton movies, which is Bruce Wayne, or a version of Bruce Wayne. I'm endlessly excited to see Michael Keaton back. If you ask me, in a perfect world, Michael Keaton would have been playing Bruce Wayne in a Batman Beyond movie, but that's another story. I'll accept this version. And it looks like they're swapping out Superman for Supergirl because of the Henry Cavill thing, which is unfortunate, but she looks like she's doing a good job in the movie, so whatever. And it looks like they're swapping out the Amazonian Atlantean War for Zod to show up again. And you know what? Any kind of motherfucking Zod is a Zod I enjoy. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. But anyways, if you have read the comic of Flashpoint, let me know what you guys think about it down below. And if there are any comic runs that I should check out or should read or should review on this channel, let me know what they are. I'd like to know if there is a Thomas Wayne specific Batman run, because I would definitely love to read that. And I want to branch out and read some other stuff. I was thinking about reading Invincible, because I really like the show, so I think that that's one I'm going to cover. I could do Alan Moore Swamp Thing because I'm a big fan of that. I haven't read it in a long time, so there's that. But any other ideas of comics you'd want me to review, I'd be curious to what you want to see. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like and comment to help it out in the algorithm. Also, if you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have channel memberships turned on, Patreon, merch store, all that linked down below, as well as all the social media links where you can follow me. And other than that, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.